Hi, my name's Starsky and welcome to From the Studio on Clubbing TV. In this episode, I'm going to take a look at Sequential's newest release. It's their small, but really quite powerful, Take 5. Take 5 means have a cup of tea, doesn't it, with a soggy biscuit. Strange name for a synth. Wonder why they called it that. So yeah, seems like a bit of an odd name, the Take 5, but when you look at their other 5-voice polysynth, the Prophet 5, it's massive. Look at the size of that compared to that. So this is based on the original 1970s or 1980s very first Prophet 5, and it's the same size as an old Prophet 5. This has got 5 voices and a lot more going on. It's got effects and all sorts of things that we'll go into in a minute, but look at the size of it. So I think Take 5 is because it's 5 voices and you can take it anywhere. Still, not massively keen on the name. And the similarities between this and this don't just end on the 5 voices. The voices themselves are VCOs, that's voltage controlled oscillators, and they're the ones that are basically 1970s technology, and they're the ones that sound a little bit warmer, richer, smoother, because they've got those small instabilities in them that just give a little bit of ear candy, and lots of people think they sound a lot nicer than other sorts of oscillators. So let's see what we've got here. First thing you notice is we've got a 3.5 octave keyboard. It's a bit of an odd size. That's 5 octaves over there, and the Prophet 6 is 4 octaves. Lots of other things are 4 or 5 octaves. Why have a polysynth that's only got 3.5 octaves? And I think that's to do with the way people use synths these days. We don't use them like a piano or trying to play an orchestra on them. We find nice little arpeggios, nice bass noises, nice lead sounds, and we play those. We don't tend to play down here and up here anymore. Why would you? You've got a bass playing the bass line and you've got something else playing the lead line, and you're tweaking around with some nice little arpeggios in the center. So it makes perfect sense to me, although I know a lot of sort of keyboard players are really rattled by the fact it's so small. But there's lots of popular synths now that are about this size because of just that. Got a nice big cut-off knob, because that's the one you use the most. It does have this weird sort of pumpkin splatter on the bottom. Don't know why it's orange, nothing else on it's orange. It looks a bit weird, but it's nice to have a big knob, and that's the one we use all the time. Hopefully it's got a steel shaft, because that's going to get a lot of battering. A bit like the Moog Sub 37. And that brings me to the sort of look of it. It looks like a modern synth. All the other Prophets have got wooden end cheeks, and they're really based on the style of that thing there. This feels like a new modern synth being made by a different company almost, and Sequential were bought out by Focusrite and Novation, so maybe that's had an impact on what it looks like. The knobs themselves, these are all nice and stiff. There's a nice bit of resistance to them. We've got sort of rubberized finish as well. Nice little clicky bits on the ones that you need to click on. So things like the BPM means you can hit exactly the number you want really simply. And the LEDs are really nice and bright. I find that on a lot of synths you can't actually see the LEDs in daylight. Great for gigging, great for in the studio, but as soon as I bring it out into the kitchen, for example, can't see what's going on. So this is lovely. It just feels like a nice design. It's a little bit bendy when you squish it like that. When I say a little bit, when you do that, it reminds me of a really old synth. It reminds me of the Pro 1 from Sequential. That's like, I think I showed it on this show a while back. That's really sort of not well built, but it's not an issue at all. On the back, we've got MIDI in, out and through, as well as USB for MIDI and for updates, not for audio. We've also got a pedal and a foot switch input, as well as audio left and right and a phone's output as well. So it's quite basic on the back panel there. We don't have external inputs. We don't have CV in and out for hooking it up to your modular system. So it's very much in the style of the old Prophet, much more of a standalone instrument. But let's take a look at what we get on the sound engine. As I said earlier, these are voltage controlled oscillators. We've got 2 of them and they're very much Prophet style oscillators. Feels exactly the same as my Prophet 6, that, or the Rev 2. It's slightly different to the Prophets in that we've got an octave switch here. So it's actually laid out much better, I think. On the older ones, you've got one knob to pitch it across the whole range of the keyboard, so this is much easier to use. And then we've got the mixer section where we bring in oscillator 2. Add a sub. Sounds big and fat, just doing a really simple tone. Then we move over to a filter. Single filter 24 dB low pass, so that's something like a Mini Moog style filter, but it doesn't sound like a Mini Moog, and I'll show why. If you've played with a lot of synths before, you'll know that normally when you knock up the resonance, you lose a lot of bass and a lot of power. Not on this, it actually sounds a little bit louder. So that's really nice, that is. I know I'm only playing a simple tone, but it's got a real nice feel to it. Just bringing in that drive circuit there, it's quite subtle when you're listening to it on big sounds. We're going to a more little acid style sound. Really does add a little bit of beef, doesn't it? Gives it a sort of saturated, fat and harmonic old school feel. And talking of old school feel, we've got this vintage knob as well. Which sort of turns it into an old broken synth. You can hear there the oscillators going out of tune and drifting a bit. Modern, old. And actually if it was that old, you'd send it to get fixed. Then we've got a couple of envelopes, some effects, an arpeggiator, a modulation matrix and 2 LFOs. So much more than you get on something that costs 3 times the price, where you can't assign the envelopes to different things. You don't have the effects, you don't have the arpeggiator, you don't have the modulation matrix, and you only have a single LFO for 3 times the price. So let's take a look then at the effects, because these are really nice. We can think of this as effectively having 2 sets of effects units. We've got a reverb, like a reverb pedal, and a multi-effects pedal, and this has got on it, it's got chorus, it's got tape, it's got flanger, phaser, it's got a high-pass filter. So although we've only got a low-pass filter here, in the effect we've got a high-pass, so we can do all band-passy stuff. We'll show that in a second. Then we've got a distortion pedal, a ring mod pedal, and a rotary speaker. So quite a lot going on in there. Let's take a listen to things like the chorus. Really nice for swirly pads, instantly everything just sounds massive. Then we've got these really nice delays, and I'll show the delays using the arpeggiator. So let's put the arpeggiator on. Let's take a look at this little high pass filter we've got as well. So there I was bringing in the reverb, and that's absolutely gorgeous, that reverb. Really simple, just 5 knobs, but the sound you can get from it. So I think that brings me to the end of it. What are my final thoughts? Well, when this was first announced, I think like a lot of people was quite shocked. It seemed quite strange. They're doing a 5-voice VCO polysynth like a Prophet 5 or the Prophet 6. Only 3.5 octaves with effects at, how much is that going to be? What, £1,100? That's just bizarre. It seems utterly amazing value for money when you think that's 3,500 and the Prophet 6 is 2,500 or thereabouts. So if you are in the market for a new synth, this is well worth checking out. I'm quite stunned by it actually. I didn't think I was going to like it, and I really do. It's got a real charm to it. It's got an old school sound but modern features and a modern face, and I really like it, so it's definitely worth taking a look at. And if you enjoyed that, don't forget you can catch it whenever you like on our Clubbing TV official YouTube channel on the From the Studio playlist. And if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll see what I can do to answer them. And also check out my Starsky Carr YouTube channel as well, where it'll have a lot more bits and bobs, dive in much deeper into this. So I'll see you in the next episode of From the Studio.